Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, my lord, honestly, I think that family is important
Okay.
because you need support.
You need support.
You need company. You need someone to bounce ideas off of. You know, it's one thing to be resourceful, but when you only have yourself to depend on, it's not easy.
Not easy.
You know,
Wow.
family is important, and I don't think that that has been our focus because you have to have strong families to build strong communities, to build
Yes.
a strong nation.
That is
You
facts.
know,
Yes.
and yes, single parents are successful, but that should not be our goal. It should not be our goal as African people to be successful single parents. Children need two parents. And I think that is the foundation, that is the success. I just feel like because when we came into this culture, repatriation was a must.
Yes.
But I don't think it is any longer. People are comfortable here, you know, and they want the comfortable life, whatever that entails in their ideals.
Yes.
It's no longer necessary.
Wow.
It's no longer necessary. But repatriation isn't for everyone. Life in Africa isn't for everyone.
Isn't for everyone.
However, we owe it to our ancestors just to visit the place.
And leave.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice. Yeah. Well, don't be afraid, for I am with the eye. I will bring thy children from the east and gather thee from the west. I shall say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from afar, my daughters from the end of the earth.
While you waiting, down in the west it seems your life frustrating. Down in the west it seems the haters keep hating. Africa awake, creators start creating. Then when we repatriate.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm an entertainment attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I'm the host of the Lion Voice. Welcome to this beautiful setting, and we have a very royal guest here today. This is very special. My guest today has many decades trod this trod that we love called Rastafari. In fact, I discovered that she was trodding before I was even born. So we're gonna go deep into the tradition. She's traveled all over Africa. We're gonna hear about the trods over Africa. She's a mother with adult children that have grown in the liberty. She is a nurse, a caregiver, a healer in her own right. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about a Nyabingi queen named Sister Inee. Blessing.
Rastafari.
And then it's Rastafari.
Royal blessings. And I'm gonna just start by being honest to our viewers. This is the second interview.
Yes.
I erased the first part trying to look at things without my glasses, you know, and so I want to be honest, but you know what?
Good.
I tell my viewers and I tell the Lion Pride, it's about consistency over perfection.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Being consistent, you will achieve you can't be perfect. None of us
No,
are perfect.
none of us are perfect.
We're flawed. So,
Yes.
I'm being transparent with mine. I'm going to put the second half up for the Lion Pride, you can see. But we had to, give this interview the time and the attention that it deserves, because I think, even reflecting,
Yes.
it's a very important reasoning.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I want to really give it the love that it requires. So before we get into repatriation, all of these things, give us a background onto the eye, history, where the eye was born, coming up in the chart, and I think this is very crucial because we want people to know you're a human being.
Yes, absolutely.
Coming from somewhere.
Coming from somewhere.
Yes.
We all have roots.
Exactly.
So I was born in Brooklyn,
Yes.
Brooklyn, New York. My parents are from the South.
Yes.
My mother is from West Virginia. My
Okay.
father is from North Carolina.
Okay.
I spent all of my childhood summers running barefoot in the hills of West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a product of the New York City public school system.
Okay.
So
you moved from West Virginia to...
No, I was born and grew up, but every summer, when
Yes.
school was out,
Okay.
we went to visit our grandparents.
Up in New York.
Up in West Virginia.
Oh, okay. So you were living in New York, and then you would go.
Yes, for the
Okay.
summers we would
Okay.
always go, all
Okay.
the cousins.
So that explains your rutical
Yes.
journey, because it was implanted.
It was implanted. We would go in the summer. We would go and pick buckets of blackberries in the hills.
Okay. Okay.
My grandfather was a coal miner.
Okay.
So they lived in a very small coal mining town in Sabine, West Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah, we were one of two black families in the whole town.
Okay.
Yeah,
Serious.
so that was an interesting experience.
And I think this is important because we also want people to know that Rastafari is not just Jamaicans.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's
Yes.
your roots. You can't get more deep American rooted than West Virginia.
I don't think so.
But yet still,
Yeah.
Rastafari called, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, I was even thinking I went to the New York City public school system.
Yeah.
But I was either in the first or the second grade when it was 1 February, it was Black History Month, and Langston Hughes came to our school.
Wow.
I remember that.
Okay.
My father took me to Billie Holiday's funeral.
Wow. Okay. History.
My father had a jazz club on Nostrand Avenue. I was a little girl, but
Okay.
yeah, and they were very involved in the civil rights struggle.
Okay.
They came here to DC. They marched on Washington with Dr. King.
Okay. Powerful. Powerful.
Yeah. So it's in my DNA.
Mm-hmm. And it came that this emperor from Ethiopia called the eye to service.
Absolutely.
So take us to New York City. A young Sister Inee there. What were some of the things that you were seeing? What were some of the Pan-African influences at that time?
When I came up, the Black Panther, they had a headquarters on Nostrand Avenue between Sterling and St. John's. I was too young to join, but these are the people that I thought about.
So you would see them?
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. These are the people. The East, that time it was the East with G2 Wayusi, Uhuru Sasa.
Okay.
So these were, I was in that neighborhood. So these were my influences from a little girl.
Okay.
I always saw them once a year when they had the festival. Everybody came in their African attire, and I always wanted to look like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So the culture was calling me from that time.
And this is so important. So, take us to your first time that you remember seeing Rastafari or having knowledge of Rastafari.
So the neighborhood where we lived, I wasn't far from Fulton Street. So we always had those brothers out there on Fulton Street. They were hustling, selling weed. That wasn't my culture then.
Yes.
But they would always stop and talk to you because I had my afro.
Yeah.
Sister, come over here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about His Majesty. And then I was curious. I read. I did some research on my own to find out about this king
Okay.
in Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my grandmother
Mm-hmm.
in the 1930s sold the newspaper to raise money for the war in Ethiopia.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is coming deep,
Yeah, it's full
full
circle.
circle. And then, so you're researching. What did you find striking as a young woman? How old? Let's get a timeline. How old are you when you meet these races on full time?
15,
15,
16 years
16.
old.
So you're a
Yes,
teenager.
I'm a teenager. And you know, and again, kudos to our parents, because
Yes.
in that time, like now you hear people say, can I now, did I make decisions at 15, 16 that I can be held accountable for today?
Yeah.
But yes,
Yes.
we can,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
because we came into this liberty as children,
Yes. Literally.
literally.
Yeah. And your parents didn't bring you into the liberty. You
And
made
they
a
didn't
decision.
embrace it either.
Okay. Talk about it.
They didn't embrace it
Mhm.
either. They thought something was wrong with us,
Okay.
you know?
Yes.
But we knew that this is how we had to live. We had to embrace this. I don't know, maybe when we get to the other side that we might hear say, well, y'all should have been doing something else.
Yeah.
But
No, I
for
don't.
right here,
Yes,
right
yes,
now,
yes.
this is what's carrying us through.
And the blessing, because and we're gonna get to it, because I tell people, this child, you get what you put in.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I could never tell anyone His Majesty fail lie.
Never.
You know what I mean?
Never.
With a straight face, I
No.
couldn't. I would be a liar. So talk to me about, okay, this initial research. You're reading some books. What were some of the early books on His Majesty, if you can remember? And what were some of the things that stood out to you about this Ethiopian monarch?
Well, you know, dread.
Yes,
That was one of the
yes.
things that, and the philosophies and opinion of Marcus Garvey.
Okay.
I read the autobiography of His Majesty. I was just
Okay.
devouring books.
Yes.
You know, that because that's what we did. You know, we did research. We saw these things, and I was thinking today, you know, when Roots came on television, you know, that was a big thing, and
Yeah.
like from that came on, we were like, oh no, we're Africans.
Because Roots, remember, is the year I was born.
Okay.
1977
There
is the
you
first
go.
time it comes on
Yeah.
TV in America. And I think before that, slavery had never been depicted.
Not
Not
like that.
like that. Like,
Right.
For people
Yeah.
to see, because you would hear about it. And we come from, or at least your generation, come from the silent generation that didn't talk about the history too much.
No, but also I have to say that I was a student, and I have an aunt. She's an ancestor now, who went to Africa several times with
Okay.
Dr. Ben
Okay.
and Dr. John Henry Clark. So those were my influences. We used to go to the slave theater, to the talks that were given there, the discussions that were given there. I saw Emmett Till's mother there.
Okay.
So many people, you know. So like growing up in Brooklyn, there was a lot going on. So every day in the community, you would just walk in the street, and it was an education.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was the heights of the Black Power movement.
Exactly.
This was the 70s was kind of a golden era.
Absolutely.
Before crack hit.
Yeah.
So you saw also things kind of take a turn in the 80s, where New York now becomes epicenter.
Yes.
For crack cocaine. We
And
had
devastation,
and it's like a bomb went off. And then also we had people like the Shower Posse, who were impersonating Rastafari,
Yes.
that were heavy in New York with their locks, shooting up the place. How did that impact? Because by this time you were already Rastafari.
I was already Rastafari. Well, I was a direct victim of it, because my daughter's father went
Yes.
to federal prison.
Wow.
For longer than we care to remember.
Wow.
He got caught up in that whole.
Is he out now?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
give thanks.
That whole debacle, but yeah.
And was it her hustling or?
No, it was the other thing that he had no business doing.
Okay,
but it was all. But the interesting thing about it is that was the days when Those were the Clinton White House years.
Yes. Okay.
And you know that super predator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he went to federal prison on a conspiracy charge. They didn't hold him with anything.
Wow. Just because who he was
Just
around.
because
Yeah.
of who he was around and who was caught with something
Yes.
and informed on him.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So again, direct victim of the war on drugs, which was a war on black people.
A direct war on black people.
You know, and black communities.
And black
because,
communities.
And I think it was a response to the golden era that we just talked about in the
Yes.
70s, that explosion of culture.
Right.
Something had to be done to kind of stop this,
Yes.
this uprising in consciousness.
But I have to give thanks to Rastafari because, you know, my daughter was she wasn't an infant, but she was a toddler.
Yes.
You know? And that was devastating. That
Yeah.
was not anything that I could really imagine was going to happen in my life. But His Majesty said, hold on. You got this. Don't give up. And it, you know, it was devastating to the extent that I had to go to Africa to just, you know, be able to firm up myself.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we're going to touch on that. But before you went to Africa, I was meditating on this. You made a trip to Jamaica, and I think it was not long after I was born. So talk to me about your first trip to Jamaica. What brought you there, and what that was like.
Okay, so this, you know, even though I came to Rastafari through knowledge and
Yes.
seeking the wise mind independently,
Yes.
you know, I did have this virgin, and he was like, "Oh, do you know about Nyabinghi?" And I could tell him about Nyabinghi because I had read about it, but
Yes.
I had never experienced. I had been to Prospect Park.
Yeah.
And
so Prospect was riding from back then.
Oh yes, that
Okay.
there's Hava. You know
Okay.
Hava, Priest Hava.
No.
What else? Tuffy. You don't know Tuffy?
I don't know
Okay,
Tuffy
he got deported years
Okay.
ago. But yeah, I think the first bingy was kept in Prospect Park, maybe like 75.
Oh wow.
Yeah. All right. So yes, I used to go there from that time. So then
Yeah.
now he's asking me, so you know, have you ever been to Bingi? And I was like, yeah. I could tell him about what Naya Bingi was like,
Yeah.
and you know, because I had read it.
Yeah.
And I had been to Prospect Park, and he said, "Man, you never gone a real Bingy, man." And he said, "Me, I'm going to send you go to Jamaica." And he said, "All right, I'm ready." You know, I
Yeah.
always love to travel.
Yes.
So
That's one of your defining features in life.
Yeah.
You know, and we're gonna get into the extensive travel.
yeah,
But so what was that trip to Jamaica?
it was
Like-
it was life changing.
Mhm.
You know, it was life changing. I went to the Isis up in Guys Hill. At Bongo Eddie Gates, and you know, Bongo Eddie was the fireman,
I was gonna say, yes.
and it was you know, that time the brethren, and I want to say to myself that Ivi and Ibo came in Crocus back because it was enough money in Crocus
Yeah.
back. It was nothing like anything I had ever experienced before coming from Brooklyn. You know,
It's like
and
you're walking into an ancient.
it was
Yeah.
just life changing. It was just life changing, and the Nyabinghi has always been part of my tribe.
Yes.
You know, I have never strayed from that.
From that, and you've been to probably bingies on every bingy ground, you know, established bingy ground that's out there. So, what were some of the things that you saw at this bingy? Because I remember yesterday you were saying, you know, it was a mystical.
Oh, so mystical, and I referred to it as a place where the only thing we didn't experience is to see people fly.
Yes.
You know, it was
Yes.
no sleeping. You know, you sit down, you reason the whole day. Yes, you're
Yes.
cooking your food. The youth them is enjoying themselves. It was just, you know,
Family vibration.
yes,
And that's the beautiful thing about the Nyabinghi that I love too, was that family vibration.
Yes.
Youth running up and down, and you know,
the reasoning,
harps,
the
yeah,
sharing,
yeah, the
you know,
sharing,
yeah,
pata bubble,
yes,
you know, dreadnought milk, this, that, you know, the smells, the sights, the sounds.
yeah.
And then so after this trip to Jamaica, what was your next international travel?
Oh,
And was that trip your first international travel?
probably.
Okay,
No, no. I went to the U.S. Virgin
Virgin Islands.
Islands
Okay,
in the 70s,
okay.
but that's not considered international
International,
because
and
it's U.S.
it's U.S.
territory.
territory, but it's still Caribbean.
Yeah.
Did
So I
you?
went to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I went to St. Croix.
Were you Rastafari that time?
Absolutely. And that
Okay.
time I was living up in the hills. We don't tie our head. We're not wearing no shoes. We're not buying no market food. It was black on black.
So that was
We riding horseback. The
oh,
horse don't have no saddle.
okay in U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yes, I.
Okay, in the 70s.
Yes, I.
Uh,
I think most of those men they're gone to the other side now, but
wow.
that's the kind of life we know about.
Okay, and this is bringing you full circle to the going summers to West Virginia. So
Absolutely.
you're reconnecting with that ancestral chad in terms of I know this, but now it's in a Rastafari form.
Yeah.
So it's not strange to the eye.
No.
You know, you're at home in these environments.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So U.S. Virgin Island, then you go to Jamaica. What was the next chad after Jamaica?
So I went to probably. So then after that, when my daughter was 18 months old, her father went to prison.
Mm-hmm.
So then now I was like, we're not gonna stress.
Mm-hmm.
So every time it was ISIS, we went to Jamaica. We went to a few Caribbean islands.
Okay.
You know, because
You had to get that weight.
yeah, and you have
Yeah.
to live your life.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, you have to be happy. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be joyful because you have life. There's so much of life to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I imagine, you know, the loss of your child's father. Effectively, did he know how long he was going to be in at that
Oh
time?
yeah, they had given him 10+5, and
Wow.
not 15 years. You have to serve the 10 years before you start to serve the 5 years.
Yes.
It was all conspiracy, and it was federal time. So you know,
Yeah.
federal time you have to do 85% of the time.
Okay. So you knew it was going to be some time before you saw this
Yeah.
virgin. All right, and this is first-hand account of how we are touched by some of these policies, you know, government policies. The first, well, so before I go there, talk to us about your journey into nursing and your professional evolution.
Oh, so I went to school at Borough of Manhattan Community College, which actually was also the alma mater of Joanne Chesima Asada Shakur.
Okay.
So you know it was a struggle because this is now the early 80s. I finished nursing school 1985, but this is the early 80s, and Rastafari was not it wasn't popular.
Yeah.
Dreadlocks wasn't popular.
Mhm.
Culture wasn't popular like it is now,
Yeah.
and so widely accepted.
Mhm.
So my first year as a nursing student was during the year of the when America invaded Grenada,
Okay.
and our clinical was at the VA hospital, and I took care of a Rasta man who was injured by the U.S. Marines.
Okay.
There, but you know, it was interesting. I always had to be the best because I was scrutinized more than any
Yeah.
of the other students in the
Yes.
classroom
And
because
excellence.
right, and you know, Rastafari always has a reputation. But I persevered. The first year semester class had 300 students. The graduating class had 36.
Wow.
You know.
And there I was in the midst as one of the.
Oh, I was at the top. I wasn't
Okay.
in the midst.
Give thanks for the clarity. So you hear that, Lion Pride, excellence, you know, from our Rastafari family, you know, excellent, excellent. So we give thanks. You see that
I
number
see
is coming.
earthquake.
So that shows the frequency is going out there, you know. So what I want to know is what was it that called you into nursing? You know, because nursing is a very demanding
It is.
profession can be very taxing, and the type of nursing that you were doing, it wasn't a regular
No, I
nursing
did
as well.
critical care my entire career.
Mhm.
I did. The only place I never worked was the operating room and dialysis, but every other aspect of nursing I did. But my 4-year-old self, I still have the book at home somewhere where the nursery school they interviewed me, and I said that I wanted to be either a nurse or a doctor.
Okay.
So
So from the age of 4,
from the age of 4.
something called. And how has that profession served you along your trod in terms of, has it instilled certain values? Have you, obviously financially, it allowed you to travel?
It allowed me to travel. It allowed me to provide for my children because I was a single parent.
Yes, and we're going to touch on that as
And
well.
I had to, I did it allowed me to do I always say that a household needs 2 incomes, but nursing allowed me to be one person and to earn 2 incomes.
Okay.
So, I did what I had to do and I loved it. I'm still, even though I'm retired now, 3 years, I still maintain relationships with patients that I had years ago.
Okay.
I maintain relationship with people that I worked with years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a calling.
And it's a beautiful calling, and something that we need in Rastafari, because a lot of us are succumbing to the same illnesses that affect the wider population.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that. So in terms of the tradition now, you're a nurse, you're Rastafari. The thing that I find fascinating about the idol is that I think there's only a handful of Rastafari family that actually not only has been to the continent but been repeatedly to the continent in terms of Rastafari family in the West. So this conversation that we can have is not a conversation that many of I and I can really have in a fullness, because many of I and I have never stepped foot on that side. Okay, take us up to the first trip to Africa.
Well, my first trip to Africa was the epic centenary trot of 1992.
Okay.
And it was epic in terms of so many Rasta had not congregated on the continent in Ethiopia before, and ones came from all over the diaspora.
Yes.
We had a delegation from Jamaica. We had a delegation from the States. There was a delegation from England. And it was just a coming together like not that had never happened before. And then also we were able to embrace the settlers.
Yes.
Mama Bar, Papa Bar, Brother Moody, all of those people. We sat and we reasoned with them.
Living history.
Living history.
What were some of the things that they shared with the eye?
Oh, Mama Bar always talked about how when His Majesty came to Shashamane, he always brought gifts for them.
Yes.
Anytime they went to Addis, they were always welcomed in the palace. It was just a very, very honorable time for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this refutes a lot of people who try to say His Majesty denied I and I. His Majesty distanced himself from I and I. When you talk to early ones who encountered, they speak about the love.
Yes.
I had a chance to reason with Mortimer Plano and other ones who, visited the palace, and they always talk about the deference His Majesty showed them, the love,
yes,
the royal treatment, making sure that they were taken care of. Not once was he saying, "I'm not God, and why are you guys doing this and that?" No.
He was so humble.
He was just humble.
He was humble.
Yes.
And he loved them.
He loved them.
Yeah.
Provided land,
Yes.
And as a good father, He's not going to give you everything. You still have to work and show what you're worthy, because you don't want to be a helicopter parent, as we know as parents, because you build lack of confidence in your youth if you try to do everything for them. So this centenary, there were 2 films made. What were those films?
One was the year
of the Creator.
Creator. and the other film was The Centenary.
Centenary.
Right.
And
One was done by Russ Moya,
yeah,
and the other one was by Johnny Dollar.
okay.
Yeah.
And you know, this centenary also gave birth to the famous chant by Marshanti.
Yes.
You know, 1892
Yes.
in the province of Harar and other very historic moments.
And Russ Ivar's chant also. It was in 18. That was Russ Ivar's chant.
Oh, that was Rastafari
Yeah.
chant. Okay.
Ma Shanti's chant was a different chant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rastafari, you know, say.
let's let's
Well,
give
forgive you the
Jackie his
credit.
Jackie.
Yeah, well, forgive the idea.
Yes,
The
that was
credit.
Russ Ivar's chant.
So, all right. So, what I want to do, because you have been to, I'm just realizing, you have been to some monumental Naya Bingis. Talk to me about some of your most memorable Bingi. 'Cause that is one thing that kind of, because I haven't been as mobile, I've missed some
Okay.
mighty celebration.
Yes.
I know that I get to attend a lot of those. What have been some of the mighty Bingis that stand out in your iris?
Well, I'm gonna say the centenary was the lifetime.
Yeah.
Only because the tabernacle was erected like right then and
Yeah.
there,
Okay.
and it was rainy season,
Okay.
and like we all came to Africa, and we were expecting one thing, and the place was cold, and it was raining, and we had fire, and we were sitting by the fire about to catch on fire, but we were still cold, and it was just a different experience.
Yes.
And the tabernacle, they just had some tarpaulin, and it was raining, and we had to all huddle outside
Yeah.
because we didn't want to get wet, but we chanted, and at the time we were like, whoa. But that just shows you what faith does.
Faith, yes.
What kind of determination, what kind of drive, what kind of zeal faith grants you.
Yes.
And even though we were in a strange place, and the Shashamani of 1992 is nothing like the Shashamani of 2020.
Which is a major metropolitan city now.
You cannot believe that.
Yeah.
The transformation is astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
And the people were very hostile.
Okay, even then.
Huh?
Hmm.
There was a brethren there. He was from England. I don't remember the brethren's name, but he was with the Kenyan sister, and they had a tent. I took a tent. We were roughing it.
Yeah.
This is Bingi.
Yeah, Naya Bingi.
Hey.
Yeah.
So their tent faced the tabernacle, and they locked up their tent. I think they went to Addis, and they came back. Brethren, the Ethiopian people had cut a hole in the tent and emptied it in the back.
Wow.
When they unlocked it,
nothing in there. Wow.
They were hostile.
Wow.
Oh.
So this is the reality of the chart, We talk about the good, but we have to also talk about the reality.
Yes.
Of the chart. But as you say, we persevere, and then eventually, actual tabernacle, the biggest in the world, was erected at that same location. So again, the faith from Trapalin to a massive tabernacle being erected. Big up the National Nyabingi Council of the UK, who was instrumental in those works. So that was one ISIS. Tell me about some other.
But Jamaica.
That first one, of course.
Yeah, the first one. But even subsequent, even my children, we went to Jamaica frequently.
Okay.
And my son, for years, he had only been to ISIS in Jamaica, and then he went to ISIS here. He was like, Jamaica, they go hard.
One of the things that I love about Jamaica is, it's really a warfare, because they have, maybe about 5 or 6 Keteman. So, here sometimes the Keteman get tired. And Kete man a struggle, you have one or two Jamaica. As soon as the Kete slips someone up,
Yeah.
you have to, if
Yes.
you're the Kete or you holding one of them posts,
Yes.
you have to make sure because there's somebody that's hungry that's just waiting for you
Ready.
to slip
Yes.
and just get you. And it's only supposed to be one Kete at a time. So, some people have kind of, thing, but the order is one
One
Kete,
Kete, yes.
one sound, because that's the
Yes.
voice. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So talk about now.
And also,
Yeah,
let me just say that South Africa,
Yeah.
oh,
hot ISIS.
hot ISIS in South Africa.
Okay.
South Africa have some fire ISIS.
Yeah, man.
Them
It's
serious in South Africa.
So we have to reach South Africa. Big up
Yes.
Sister Mimi, South Africa family. We know we're coming soon. So talk to I and I. Okay, so Centenary was the first visit. Ethiopia, high in elevation, beautiful for situation, but we have to understand it's not. They have tropical parts of Ethiopia, but it's cold in Addis and certain
Addis is
places. In the
cold,
rainy
yes.
season,
It's bitter.
you have to, that's why the Shama culture and
Yes.
all of this, when you see
And the
in
Gabi.
Asian, and the
Yeah.
Gabi, these things, it's not for a joke.
No,
It's
it's
because
not for fashion.
it's culture. So talk to I and I about, okay, Ethiopia was the first trad. What was the next trad? And then give me the year, because that was 1992, the first
92,
trad to
94.
Africa. 94 now.
I went to Kenya.
Kenya.
Yeah, because 94, I said, oh, I'm repatriated. You know, it's time to go home.
Yes.
I sold my car, I sold my furniture, I quit my job,
Okay.
and I went to Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, what was that like?
Well, it was, again, it was a test of strength because the brethren I was supposed to be treading with was coming from Jamaica, and he died suddenly.
Okay.
And I had to soldier up.
Wow.
Because I was there with my daughter.
Yes.
And I couldn't be depressed.
Wow.
And, I had a little money in my pocket.
Yeah.
I had sold everything. I came with some barrels with like things that I could sell and medicines.
Yes.
And so I just had to soldier up, put my daughter in school. And the things that I saw that I brought with me, because I came with like 5 barrels, I sold them. That maintained us, paid rent, paid school fees.
Yes, thanks.
And
Resourceful.
yeah.
So did you ever try to get into nursing over there, or?
No, I just did some community things. I saw the little old ladies with high blood pressure and swollen feet. I gave them some water pills, things like that.
Okay.
Monitored their blood pressure, monitored blood sugar. I just did little simple things in the community. People who needed I knew they needed antibiotics. I had some antibiotics.
So let's talk about lessons learned, because you went, you touched on something that I didn't catch yesterday, but I want to touch on today, which is making that trot. A lot of us get that emotional surge to repatriate. We sell off everything. We go. We find that a lot of those ones end up returning.
Yes.
What would you say are some of the lessons learned on that approach, and then also, what would you tell someone who has that feeling right now in terms of what they need to do to raise the chance of success?
Well, my Lord, honestly, I think that family is important. Okay. Because you need support. You need company. You need someone to bounce ideas off of. It's one thing to be resourceful, but when you only have yourself to depend on, it's not easy. Family is important. And I don't think that has been our focus, because you have to have strong families to build strong communities, to build a strong nation.
That is fast. Yes.
And yes, single parents are successful, but that should not be our goal. It should not be our goal as African people to be successful single parents. Children need 2 parents. And I think that is the foundation, that is the success.
And that's one of the things that we're going to really drill down on, because my channel is all about the black family, the
Yes.
Rastafari man standard, because to lead a family, you have to have a vision. I tell my audience is 95% male audience.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that you see I'm bringing the sister in them on here, the real sister in them who grounded. So I'm praying my sister who watch the video, 'cause I know you're out there watching, just subscribe and follow, because we're gonna bring a lot more of these voices, because I Network, I've been blessed to know many powerful sisters. And one of the things I say to brethren is that first, seek the Almighty and all His righteousness.
Yes, sir.
All things will be added. Then you have to identify your purpose. How are you going to serve the Almighty? And then you establish yourself in the purpose. That's when now you bring in the Queen, because the Queen is the helpmate that's going to help you establish your purpose. You're going to find someone whose vision aligns with your purpose. But I find a lot of brethren, you may deal with a sister because she's cute.
Right.
Cute doesn't last.
No,
You know what I
it
mean?
doesn't.
People who grow apart, you always hear about people, whatever, is because there wasn't an alignment in terms of the
Right.
mission.
There was no balance.
There's no balance.
And we should reflect one another.
We should reflect one another.
Yes.
So these are the things from a female perspective. What are some of the things you would tell the brethren watching the channel in terms of preparing, because we have young brethren, single brethren who may be looking and trying to get themselves ready. What are some of the things that you would share with them that they would need to prepare for a queen or to
Commitment.
Okay.
Commitment is important.
Okay.
And commitment is the foundation. And we know that His Majesty set the example of a monogamous relationship.
Yes. Yes.
And we are also aware that polygamy is part of our
Yes.
African culture.
Yes.
With this in mind,
hmm
polygamy should be done in the correct
In
way.
the correct way.
That each one of your wives should have a house.
Mhm.
And you must be able to, you as the king man,
Mhm.
should be able to provide equally for all of them.
It's a rich man's sport, Virgin.
Exactly.
Let me just put it
Exactly.
plain for you.
Exactly.
You're talking about polygamy. She's saying very nicely, you have to have money.
You have to
do
have money.
Yeah.
Big money.
Big money.
Not little money.
not
Because
little money.
if I am in a polygamous relationship, my
Yeah.
money is my money and what I want to do.
Yeah.
Brethren.
And this is something that I think we as Rastafari have to visit. It's not for everyone,
No.
but at the same time, there are more sisters naturally in a population than
Yes.
brethren.
Yes.
That's any across all demographics, all just nature. Mother Nature has
Right.
just irated it that way, that there are going to be more females in a population. So our ancestors, I think, brought polygamy. I saw something. It was that so that every woman would have a wife, every child would have a father.
Right.
That was the reason why our ancestors so widespread across the continent. And then, of course, you would lose brethren to war.
Truly.
Life expectancy just
Right.
back then, you go to the bush, something juke you,
Right.
anything can happen. So
Right.
you're losing people constantly. So it makes sense that you would make sure every sister who can give birth is
Would be
properly
able to.
provided. How does that translate in the modern? We know our people, sister. Can polygamy work today in the West?
In the West, again, it's
Yeah.
a rich man thing.
It's a rich man thing.
Yes.
Yes. And that's important that we talk about that. But again, as you said, His Majesty showed the example with Empress Menen. So that would be the rule.
That would be, and that is the example.
Yeah, that's the example.
That is the perfect example.
That is a perfect example. So if you're gonna do the polygamy route, you're going out, you're in a small minority, and you have to have money.
Big money.
So all of these brethren who are trying to be King Solomon, but they don't have consistent employment, they are, yes, in your view, completely.
That is a slave mentality.
That's the breeder.
Yes.
Okay, on the plantation.
Because we know that happened in our recent history.
Yes. No.
My parents were together for life,
Give
and
thanks.
I laugh to myself because they're together in the afterlife because I put them in the same hole.
Okay.
But
Give thanks. Give
you
thanks.
know,
Yes.
um, that's what that is.
Yes. So you come from an
That is not
example. Yeah.
having 5 and 6 babies. Mother is not a badge of honor.
Okay.
It's not. I don't think so.
Give thanks. We have to have these uncomfortable conversations if we're going to rise the Rastafari family to what our role is
Yes.
supposed to be. This is what my channel is about, so I'm glad to hear from a Christian perspective because tragedy hit you hard. You come from a two-parent home, life intervened, imprisonment, say a brethren died. You've gone through a lot of things. How has that journey been for you as a single mother? I've met your children at different stages. They are productive adults now.
Yes.
So obviously you were able to pull it through successfully. But how was that? Talk about that. So even our young sister, and I'm going to ask you to also advise our younger sister what they need to look for, or what you would advise as an elder sister, because we have to pass the wisdom on in terms of relationships. We don't talk about relationships. We talk
No.
about history.
Right.
We're going to His Majesty coronation every year. We're going to, but we don't talk about how do we sustain a relationship. You know.
Communication.
hmm
Communication is the key, and sharing. And
hmm
I could say I can't give relationship advice because I'm not in a relationship,
Yeah,
and that's
but you could say
honest.
what the lessons you've learned.
Yeah,
Though.
I
Yeah.
think communication is
Yes.
the key.
Yeah.
You know, sharing is the key.
hmm
You have to respect one another,
Yes.
and commitment,
hmm
like honest commitment.
You
Do
keep saying that.
do I
Yes.
do I really want to be with this person?
Mhm.
And another thing is that unconditional love does not mean I can do anything and you're still gonna love me.
Okay.
It means that there are certain things I would never do to you because I
Because
love
I
you.
love you unconditionally. Um, do you think that the inability of commitment of brethren to commit, because you said it a couple of times, do you think that's born out of certain level of trauma? You kind of intimated that. What do you think is preventing that?
I think that they have not developed this Afrocentric way of thinking
Okay.
because when you go to Africa, when you go to the continent,
Yeah.
those brethren and sisters, they're married.
Yes.
They're committed to one another.
Yes.
You know,
The family structure
it's there.
is very crucial in Africa.
Yes.
Mhm.
Even if one of the maids pass away, the family is still maintained. You know, it's not like, and again, it is very detrimental to children
Yes,
when they have an absentee parent.
that's a fact.
If your parent is dead, it's different.
hmm
But to know that your parent is alive and well
hmm
and chooses not to be in your life, it has
Yes.
a very detrimental effect.
So, Brethren, I hope you hear that because I know the baby mother thing, there was a period where it was very popular to, for Brethren to have multiple baby mothers and maybe not be in touch. And a lot of Brethren I know is because they don't have the economics to contribute in their child's life, or they perceive they don't. So they stay away because of that shame and guilt, you know what I mean, in terms of I can't provide the way I know I need to be providing. Because let's be honest, a lot of us as brethren are hustling.
Right.
The money up, the money down. And when it's up,
Very up.
it's very up, but not long up.
No.
You know, you know what I mean?
Short
Not
lived.
long,
Yes.
because we're coming out of a herb economy for a lot of us. You know what I mean? So that life is very perilous, and this is why we're advocating for our young brethren to get a trade, go to school, have a vision, have a plan. I work with creatives in terms of how to monetize, get your ecosystem together. These are the things that we're talking. We're setting a new example and template for Rastafari brethren to lead a prosperous Rastafari future. But there are some issues that we're facing in Rastafari right now. One of them is repatriation. Yesterday, you made a comment that really touched my heart in terms of your view on Rastafari and repatriation. Please elaborate.
I just feel like because when we came into this culture, repatriation was a must.
Yes.
But I don't think it is any longer. People are comfortable here, and they want the comfortable life, whatever that entails in
Yes.
their ideals.
Yes.
It's no longer necessary.
Wow.
It's no longer necessary. But repatriation isn't for everyone. Life in Africa isn't for
Isn't for
everyone.
everyone.
However, we owe it to our ancestors just to visit the place.
At least before you
At
make your
least once.
decision if you're gonna go or not, just visit.
Just visit.
It should be like a pilgrimage to Mecca for the Muslim.
Absolutely.
So, brethren, you heard if you haven't been to Africa, make sure you're saving your money to make that trip. No, you have to.
You have to.
You have to make that trip
You
because
have
it's
to.
like, are you really Rastafari if you haven't been to Africa or haven't tried?
Can you really call yourself an African and you've never been to Africa?
And there's one thing that back in the day it was difficult to impossible to get there. Now
It's easy. It's easier.
it's easier. And I will say, in all fairness, anytime I've decided to go to Africa for my buy the plane ticket, pure worries and problems. You know what I mean? There's always things that come. There's a spiritual. I don't know if it's DC, DMV, and I've talked to other brethren and they had the same experience. It's like all these things just come when you're getting ready to leave Babylon. They're trying to pull you.
It's true.
Whether it's financial, whether it's, just little things start popping up.
Yeah.
Once you buy that plane ticket and you're ready to move, or once you decide to buy the plane ticket, but you have to fight through.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's a
Soldier
ironical.
up.
It's a ironical thing to make that trip. However, I tell brethren, if you fast from buying this name brand herb for a month, you will have your plane ticket to go to Africa. You know what I mean? Because we're spending a lot of money on these name brand herbs where we're not growing. So do that if you're in the West. Take your trip to Africa. Talk to me about some of the places that the eye has been on the continent.
Okay. All right. So, East Coast, Egypt,
Yes.
Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania,
All right.
Zambia.
You miss Rwanda?
Okay, I'm gonna come back.
Okay.
Zambia, Zimbabwe,
Okay.
South Africa, Rwanda,
Yes.
West Coast,
Okay.
Morocco,
Okay.
Senegal, Ghana, Guinea, the Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire,
Wow.
and Togo.
Okay, give me some of your highlights, some of your favorites out of those places.
Rwanda was one of my favorites.
Okay.
The land of 1,000 hills.
Okay.
Rwanda is beautiful. And then you sit in Rwanda and across the lake, I forgot the name of the lake, is Burundi.
Okay.
Rwanda is beautiful. South Africa is very memorable, but South Africa again is cold, and South Africa is a cowboy town.
Okay.
Like, you have to be ready for whatever is going to happen when you go to South Africa. The weather is going to change, you might get held up, but South Africa is Babylon.
Yes.
Nice parks,
Yeah.
big shopping malls, pretty cars,
Yes.
nice houses.
It's like in the West.
Yes.
It's like California. People tell me it's like being in LA or something.
I haven't been to LA, but South Africa is Babylon.
Yeah.
Kenya is beautiful, but and Guinea, the Gambia is beautiful.
Okay.
I saw the biggest mango trees I ever saw in my life in the Gambia. Like 10 people could hold hands around the mango tree.
Wow.
I went to Jufere, Kunta Kinte's village.
Okay.
And when I went there, this was the early 2000s. There was no electricity in the town. So at night, people built fires and they would dance.
Oh, wow. Mighty.
Like nothing you have ever experienced. And the women are dancing with their babies on the back, and the babies' head is going like this. And they're dancing. in front of the fire.
Right.
That there's no well then
Yeah,
there
then.
was no electricity in
What
the
what
whole
what year
town.
did you
And
travel?
this was probably about maybe 2004.
For okay.
Yeah, yeah, that was an experience.
And then
But my favorite place is Tanzania.
yes, talk about Tanzania.
So Tanzania is creation, it's wildlife, it's humbleness. I went to Tanzania the first time in the 90s when I
Mhm.
was in Kenya. And you know, you see, and even today you still see Maasai women. The Maasai culture is very prevalent, and it's home. I can be comfortable there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And talk to me about that mountain because you had
Mount
mentioned
Kilimanjaro, it calls to you. It's like nothing else in the world. When you wake up in the morning and you look and you see Kili, and she's so majestic. It's it calls to your soul.
it all to your soul,
Yeah.
and you spent a lot of time at the foot, at the base of the
In Moshi.
Mesha. Yeah,
Yes, at
yes.
the base of Mount Kilimanjaro. I also went to the coast. I went to Bagamoyo
Mhm.
and you can spend a whole day on the beach and you'll be there just you one. I
Wow.
went to Zanzibar, but Tanzania is really beautiful.
Did you
The
ever?
language is easy to
Yes.
learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to that place I see on the social media where they have turtles swimming in Zanzibar?
No, I didn't. That's the
Okay.
turtle farm. I didn't. I mean, I went to places, but I tried not to go to the
Tourist
touristy
parts. Yeah,
places.
you
Yeah.
like to go to the indigenous
Yes.
places.
And also when I go to different places in Africa, I have to go to the slave dungeon
Mm,
because that's where our ancestors passed through.
yes,
You know, so I have to go and touch that because that's our reality.
yes.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the trip you made to Ghana with the Rastafari Continental.
Okay, so that was the last time. I've been to Ghana a few times, but
Yeah.
that was the last time I was there. So it was a gathering,
Hmm.
and there were a contingency from Barbados. There were ones from Barbados. There were ones from different places in Jamaica.
Hmm.
Mama Ijanya was there.
Yes.
Myself. Ones from South
Archangel.
Africa.
Hmm.
King. There was a virgin there from the Sudan. So it was a large mixture. And we took in the Nyabingi drums, and I said to myself, you know, this is epic because this has never happened in many years
Yes.
because we don't know where all of our souls, these ancient souls, came from.
Yes.
But now we are here gathered together.
Mm.
So we are chanting at the door of no return. And we stood in a circle, but ones who were not Rastafari, they stood outside of the circle.
Hmm.
And I said to myself, but why would they do that? So we chanted and it finished, and now we go back to the place where we were staying in Kufarida.
Yeah.
And it's evening now, and I think I was coming out to eat or something, and someone said, "Oh, Sister Annie, come, we were looking for you. We need you." So I went, and I was like, "Well, what's the matter?" And they took me to this brethren's room, and he was an elder man, and he was lying in the bed, and he was, "Ay, ay, 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 ay." And I was like, "Wow!" So I went in, I got my little first aid kit, and I took his vital signs. I took his blood sugar, and he was okay. And they said that he was an idle man. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink,
Wow.
he didn't do anything. But after we came back from the dungeon, this is how they found him. So they got him dressed and they took him to the clinic. And the doctor there, medical doctor, asked them, "Well, what happened? Where did you go today?"
Hmm.
And they said, "We were at the dungeons in Amina." And he said, "Okay, I know what's wrong with you."
Mm.
So he put him on a drip and he sedated him. And it took him 3 days to wake up.
Wow.
But he stood on the fringes.
The spirit found a weak link, the ancestor, the tormented souls. Because think about how many people were tortured. You know, that energy don't have nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
Can't find
And
a
what did
peaceful
we bring
rest.
up? Because we came here
With the heartbeat.
with the heartbeat.
Do good. So all of them resting energies now coming to look and see what's happening.
And man is there from South Africa. Man is
Yes.
there from Barbados, Jamaica, America.
So,
Here, England.
yeah,
Here. It's all of those. Oh, that's my baby.
Yes.
That's my baby.
Wow. You see? So this is why
It's intense.
It's intense, and this is why, you know, a lot of people dabble in African spirituality.
And you have to know what
You
you're
have
doing.
to know what you're doing, because not all ancestors are good ancestors.
Absolutely.
Some are murderers, some are whatever, and they are tormented on the earth. They can't go into any place of rest. You now a dabble and do something where you find online. You
And
want
it's
the
the wrong thing.
priestess.
You lighten
Yeah,
candles
you like
and incense,
exactly.
and I know.
Yeah, and you
No,
inviting these
brethren, you
things.
have to know. You have to know.
And
There are good spirits, there are bad spirits. I
Yes.
went to Gorée Island, but I went to Gorée Island years ago, and I know I haven't been in a long time. And I know in Senegal, I know it's a different experience. But the brethren told us, don't stay here after dark.
Okay.
Get out. Make sure you take that boat and go back to the mainland before the sun goes down, because it's the vibes here, the spirits here are not to be played with.
You see? So these are and Africa, for those of us who have gone now, it's a spiritual experience. It touches, it's different, because I know being on this land like right now, yes, we're in nature, it's beautiful. But there's a level of disconnect
Yes.
that you feel being here. Even though it's beautiful, you can experience the beauty. You know, we're in a beautiful park here, nature all around us. But when you're in Africa, there's something that does. It's like you plug in. You're plugged into
To
something.
the real source.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is here. The other thing is because we don't even know how many of our ancestors hung from these trees.
From these trees, the Maryland. We're in Maryland, which was part of the South, the Confederate. You know what I mean?
Mason-Dixon line.
The Mason-Dixon line. So this would have been, you know, very easily a place of torture for our ancestors.
Absolutely.
You know, very easily in this very spot. So
And these were plantations.
These were plantations, you see. So this is the thing that we have to understand. And this is why you have to go to Africa, because you have to experience. Don't let the Dejazmatch Kwasi or Sister Inee come tell you about Africa.
No.
Go and experience it for yourself, so you can have your own testimony. So you've traveled all of these places on the continent. I want to talk about future. Let's future forecast, because we want to give some solution. And again, I tell the eye, you're one of very few who has the experience that you've had. You know, just the amount of times you've been to the continent. What are some things you think that Rastafari from the West that we can do to strategize to as we return? Because there is a cadre of us that are planning to return. What are some of the things that you think that we can do to prepare to ensure that we build the future that we want to see?
But I think it's important that we establish institutions.
Yes.
I think it's important for ones to scope out where you want to go on the continent, because you have 55 choices.
Yes.
55 different countries. So go there, strategize, see what's needed. What are your skills?
Yes.
What are you working with? And then you work from there. You know, I'm looking at this point to get a piece of land and do some permaculture farming.
Yes.
You know, I'm tired of working hard, because I've worked hard.
Yes.
I was a single parent. I've worked hard, but I just want to live in an environment that I am healthy for the creation around me, and the creation around me is healthy for me.
Yes.
You know, at this point in my life.
Yes. So some farming, you wake up in the morning, you tend to your farm, by noon you finish.
Yes.
You seated up, watching Mount Kilimanjaro, and just enjoying, full joy.
Having two animals run up and down. It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you were saying some sheep or something
Some
to keep
sheep.
the grass
Yes.
down and things. So these are the things that you can envision. Agriculture is the backbone. I tell Sister Inee, that we would want to build some health facilities, because I also think we have to rethink how we do health. A lot of the hospital, when you go to a hospital, it doesn't feel health engendering a lot of the health hospitals how they're built.
Right.
I think Rastafari, what would be some of the suggestions, other than things like more sunlight, that's able to penetrate. But I find sometimes, it's all these hallways, the artificial light, and what kind of things do you think could improve healthcare?
Well, I think one thing that's very important that we need to look at is that we are not lasting as long as our parents.
Yes.
That's very important. And we stress the fact that we have this ital liberty. But, like dollars and cents is dollars and cents. And sometimes you might need some nutritional supplements.
Yes.
Let's not be afraid of that. Let's utilize herbs and other things. But, supplement your diet, because you may not be able to get all the nutrients that are necessary from the food that is around you. Mental health is also very important. We cannot neglect that.
Yes.
We as Africans, we always took care of ourselves mentally because we had places where the men would go off and do whatever they needed to do to strengthen themselves.
Yes.
And we had places where sisters would go
come together
and strengthen each other, and people to look after your children, and you always had an auntie or a grandmother. So like modern society is lacking these things, and especially considering the fact that we've just gone through the pandemic, everybody was isolated. So you need somebody to talk to.
Yes.
We need to take care of our teeth. Your teeth are bones. They're meant to last your lifetime. Why do we accept dentures?
A lot of our elders have no teeth.
Education is the key. We cannot neglect that. We need to be on top of all of these things.
Flossing. Make sure you're flossing.
And flossing before you brush.
Yeah, floss before you brush. Very important, because my brother's a dentist.
Oh.
So, I grew up, and he was like you from he was a little boy, he wanted to be a dentist. He saved all his teeth in a little jar. I think he still have them today, all the baby teeth. And he always wanted to be a dentist. So,
it's
very
important.
Yeah, very important. The natural health care.
Yes.
Very important. Let me touch a touchy topic, and this might get me in a little trouble with my sister and them. We have a lot of overweight Rastafari sister. What do you think I need to, or what do you think is happening in that? Because black women in general are heavier in this modern era, with the processed food and what's happening. But as you said, we're supposed to be ITA, but I'm noticing, particularly when I go to Jamaica, other places, that we have a lot of Rastafari sisters that are on the heavier side of things.
Of the scale.
Yes.
I think sedentary lifestyle.
Yes.
And I think also another problem is everybody's eating these fake meats.
Oh.
Like why do you need to eat vegan chicken? Like, we're vegan. Like, those things are good for children, and they have a lot of it's processed food.
Yes.
And it's not good for you. It's
a lot of veggie chunks in Jamaica.
I don't think that's not good. I remember when my children were small, my nephew came over, and I had made veggie chunks, and he was like, "It's dog food," and it looks like dog food. And I was like, "No." So we have to be careful. Even just because it says vegan doesn't mean it's good for you. There's vegan food that's not good for you. But I laughed to myself. Because the women in Tanzania are very buxom.
Okay.
I said, if you need a big body woman, go to Tanzania, because it's amazing.
Yes.
Like, even me as a woman, I'm like, wow.
Yes.
Sis, you walking with that?
Fatty boom boom.
Yes.
Come on, Rastlage. So, and I had to have this conversation with Sister Inee, because she's a health professional. So I wouldn't just pop that question on any sister.
Right.
But this is something I've thought to myself for a long time. We supposed to be that example. But I'm noticing a lot of, and then with that, of course, is going to come the hypertension,
For sure.
high cholesterol.
And surprisingly and unfortunately,
Mhm.
we are suffering from all of these illnesses.
Yes,
Yeah, but this fake meat, vegan food, it's not good for you. It's
yes.
processed.
Processed food, same
It's
way.
processed food.
And this is why we want to distinguish between vegan and ITAL, two different
Two different things.
things. ITAL comes before vegan.
Yes.
ITAL is a higher standard than vegan.
Absolutely.
And I'm guilty because I eat some of that stuff sometimes. I'm going to be very honest. And that's why I like being in Africa, because in Africa we don't eat.
No, because it's too expensive.
It's too expensive, exactly. Most you're going to deal with in Africa is some mushroom, and you season up the mushroom.
Right.
I love the mushroom in Ghana, the oyster mushroom.
Okay, so we get mushrooms in Tanzania.
Mhm.
Now, and when in Tanzania, when I splurge,
Mhm.
and it's not too often, maybe once every 2 months, I'll buy a block of tofu.
Yes.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is creation.
And that's what I tell my queen. Even now, if we're gonna do that, let's just do the tofu for
Yeah.
now. Then the whole heap. Because we got caught in that trap with the youths then.
Well, and yes, and that's what it's made for. It's made for children, and you're kind of forced to do it because you want your children to remain on a vegan diet.
Yeah.
So you buy the things so that they won't stray too far.
Yes.
Is you lesser of two evils. You
Yes.
do what you have to do when you have children.
Yes.
But and the other thing that Africa facilitates is that we can come in and do whatever we want to do to make, because tofu is basically bean curd.
Mhm.
You can use pumpkin seeds,
Mhm.
you can use chickpeas,
So we can do healthier tofu.
you can do healthier tofu.
Mm.
And Africa awaits the creators. And we could do that. One brethren did have a tofu factory in
Okay.
Shashamane years ago.
Yeah, I think I heard about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And because we don't have to just use soya beans.
You don't have to use soybeans.
Yeah.
We can use fava beans. There's so many other things to be used.
And this is where my work. I haven't talked about it much on the channel, but this is what I've been working on, is creating this ITAL certification standard. Because I really believe that is where our wealth as a people is going to come from. In this coming war, the Third World War has started. We see with Ukraine, leaked documents show that U.S. soldiers are already on the ground engaged against Russian forces. So the World War III has started. We're headed for global collapse. We can say this because we are the sons and daughters of Rastafari. We have far-eye vision. We know what's coming. So food and water security is so critical.
Absolutely.
In terms of making sure. But I think that by setting up this ITAL standard is something that the world is going to want, because people are now becoming more conscious. Even that, like you said, the veganist process. I was reading something about the seed oils, like grape seed oil, all of these were industrial byproducts that they now.
Yes. See that is okay for human consumption.
Yeah, canola oil, all these things.
Right. And what the heck is a canola? The heck?
That's a clip right there. That's a clip right there. What the heck is a canola? For real. When you meditate on it, word sound power. What is a canola? Where does that exist in nature? So these are industrial, but as we get the knowledge, if we have our branded trademark ITAL certified products, value added products, this is where we're going to create multi-billion-dollar
and
industry.
That's why I say, research where you want to go, find out what's needed, what are the natural resources you have there, because all this tofu, like years ago, how was tofu made? They made it by hand.
Yes.
And if you
soak
have
the
to,
beans and
if you have to start off making it by hand, then you start off making it by hand until you can use commercial machines. You can purchase the commercial machines to do the production. But we have to start somewhere, and it's not an impossibility. You have a family, you have two families, you have an idea, you can work together. And I think also humbly,
Mhm.
let me say that I think also often why we fail is because we're too much in each other's personal business.
Personal business. I learned that fairly early. I give thanks because, I'm going to be honest. When we first came into the Naya Bingi, we were very much looking at other people's, what they're, we used to call people fish mouth, for example. If you eat fish, as you said, them fish mouth there.
And is that anything
Yeah.
to discriminate anybody against?
And that's where I was going to lead. We would treat these people, differently because you're not looking at their work. So you're trying to say you're not going to work with this mankind, eat fish, but then as you grow older, you realize some of them man will eat good. They're not reliable, so we start to just throw those things away and say, we're going to work with the people who are about the work. We're going to look at the outcome we want and find the people who can achieve the outcome and their work ethic. Because I have brethren who are quote unquote bald-head brethren who I would trust my life to, and then I have brethren who are article where I go watch them every move they make, but they may be perceived as an article brother out there in the world, so you can't judge by food consumption. And people, I used to eat meat, so if someone had caught me before my uprising and they had dealt with me away, then they might have turned me off or whatever from my journey, or delayed, because you can't really turn off a man from his destiny, but they could delay it because you have a bad experience with a Rastafari. Most of us had positive experiences with someone, because even you said the brethren on Fulton Street were welcoming,
Absolutely.
So it plants these seeds, and this is why as Rastafari we always must be kind to you, welcoming, because that's a seed planted.
Absolutely.
That down the line may spring forth into, a great leader within our movement. I've kept you very long this morning, and give thanks for the reasoning. Before we go though, I wanted to just touch on the dress code. You always, from I've known the eye, and I've known the sister in over 20 years, just to give some context, um, I've always seen the eye just show up as the eye is here presently, long skirt, head wrap. With some of the younger sisters coming into the Liberty, we noticed that, they're not as committed, to the attire. What gives you that conviction for decade after decade, even when it may not be convenient, in terms of the wider society, to hold fast to how the eyes show up in the world with your tall skirt, your head covered?
I would just say that it's knowledge of self and of African culture. Because when you are in Africa, now traditionally, this is how women dress.
Yes.
They cover. And let me just say that, and again, let's be honest. For years I worked in the hospital and I did wear scrubs.
Yes.
I wore scrub trousers because it wasn't always convenient to have on a dress, because sometimes you had to jump on somebody's chest and do compressions and you don't need your skirt hiking up. But when I represent myself, I represent my culture.
And we spoke about that with Mama Walete. I don't know if you saw that episode where we say, if the activity called for a certain attire, then of course, we
appropriateness.
Exactly.
Appropriateness. But I remember back in the this is probably in the 70s, it was a bad snowstorm in New York. And the snow was like up to our knees. But we had on our skirts, and our skirts were over the snow. Our skirts were over the snow. Our legs were frostbitten, but we would soldiering it out.
Do you know Mama Walete from New York?
Of course. Okay. I know her when she was in high school.
Okay.
Are you kidding?
Okay, so
I know her when she was in high school.
She talked about that same snowstorm in her episode where she had, they were wearing skirts same way.
Yep, we wore our skirts. We soldiered it out.
Wow, small world.
And again, how many, and this is to our parents, because it was a different era, but nowadays children don't say, oh, the decisions that I made at 18, can I live by them? You can live by them.
Yes.
We had good examples.
Yeah, good examples. And honestly, as a parent, my daughter doesn't know how she wears pants. It hurts my heart to see it. But the other thing I learned, that if you try to be too strict on them,
Right.
the rebellion
And
that's
how
gonna
old is your
come.
daughter?
My daughter is gonna be 15 this month.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So actually, the 29th of this month she'll be 15, my firstborn, and it's a challenge because
It's a challenge.
She won't cover her locks. If she goes to a Naya Bingi, and she was sanctified at Scott Pass.
Okay.
By elders, that most of the elders that sanctified her are no longer living. So she was there. Bongo Daniel was there, and enough other ones. But she was sanctified, so I try in the early days, and I had a girlfriend before my wife that I was treading up with, and I was very strict. So I learned from there that trying to impose sometime you're not gonna get. It has to be a natural, like the I embrace it, the I self,
Yes.
And it's been an example, and I think when you do that, the children will set there eventually because they had that example,
Right.
and they see their parent seated and settled in that inner peace. But when you try
And
force it down,
right,
you will get it until they leave the house.
Right.
And then that rebel. I went to Howard University, so we saw the girls that rebelled from the strict parents. So we don't want that for our children. So I always keep that. So I just want to be honest. We ask the questions. We know the ideal. And I've said it all as well, that when I went to Africa and you're walking around, you don't know who's Rastafari from who's not, because the women are dressed the same way with the head wrap, and and even the head wrap, a lot of them tie it the same way.
Right, and a lot of them in
style.
Tanzania, a lot of them have locks.
Okay.
But they don't embrace Rastafari culture. I never met a Rasta woman in Tanzania.
Okay.
But in terms of my daughter now my daughter, she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
She cut her locks when she was 21.
Yeah.
But now she was getting ready to graduate from university. And she wore pants when she started to go to college.
Yes.
And I was okay with that.
Yes.
Because I said, you're an adult now. You need to make decisions for yourself.
Of course.
This is the life that I felt was the right way to raise you. So she cut her locks. However, the foundation is still there.
Yes.
There's still Ital.
Yes.
Her hair is still natural.
Yes.
She never burn her hair. She don't wear no makeup.
Yes.
You will never see her in no pumpkin shorts.
Yes. Give thanks.
She's still, there's certain
I'm fighting against the
principles.
belly skin shirt right now. Is that
She don't wear those things.
Yes, I'm fighting. Generation Z, anybody.
I'm sorry for you.
Anybody who's raising Generation Z, the belly skin shirt, them,
but you see grown women wearing them with
yes.
stretch marks from here to thy kingdom come. And
I advocate to bring back shame. I need to,
body shaming.
I'm an advocate of body shaming because we need some boundaries. You know? But this is a very important conversation as parents, Rastafari parents, because and these are not things that you're only going to find this on Lion Voice, man.
People don't talk about
we don't talk
things.
about these things, you know what I mean? And we are not retaining the second generation in our liberty. And my thing is, I'm not going to complain because we didn't have institutions built for them, as you say. And when I look at the European Jews, I look at the Chinese, I look at all these people have institutions that their children matriculate through. They never have to go out and look for a job in the world. So, you'll see the Orthodox Jews have a retention rate. Even the Amish, which is a great example.
Yes.
They may even go out and wild out, but they have things for their children. I mean, I think they have like a year or two where they can just
Go wild out.
wild out.
Again.
And then they come forward, they have a job,
Yes.
housing, everything. There's a farm structure, everything is there.
A cow. A horse, a buggy. They have. But again, it brings us back to the family.
The family.
It brings us back to the family. That's what we don't have.
That's what we don't
And
have.
that's what we don't stress.
So this is what this episode, if anything, we're gonna center this episode around family,
nurturing,
restoration of the Rastafari family. This is the mission right now. Cause every other plan we have, grandiose, big, is nothing.
It's not gonna, and it won't succeed.
It won't succeed if we don't secure that basic building block of the family. All right. So final sounds, just encapsulate some of your sounds that you want to share. Again, my listenership, majority Rastafari, all over the world. We big up the Lion Pride all over the world. What sounds you want to share with the global family in terms of just where they are is and what we need to be, how we need to be orienting ourselves right now?
Repatriation is a must. Black power, free the people.
Free the people, free the land. They would also
free your mind.
Free your mind. So these are the things. So again, we give thanks, Mama Inee, again, over 20 years, grounded sister. And these are the type of interviews I'm passionate about bringing to the world, because we don't hear these voices. We're talking to artists, and I know the artists too. I'm going to bring some of them too. I know them, but the artists are just singing about what they come and see with the core of ones like the eye, like many others that will feature on this platform. So I want the world to understand Rastafari is not reggae music. Rastafari is not run up on a stage and say, Ja, Rasta, that's part of it, and we give thanks for that part because that sound the trumpet around the world. We can't take away from that. But this is the core. This is the conversations. These are the concerns with modern Rastafari as we get ready. And I tell people the best years of Rastafari are ahead of us, because now we're re-embracing the teaching of His Majesty. We're hugging up because we find His Majesty is the only thing that keeps us together across whatever we're doing. So the best years is not, the 70s was a golden era, and we never reached back to that thing, but the future to I is going to be great. It's going to blow that time out of the water. So you're only going to see it here unfolding in living color, because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story, and this is the Lion Voice.
Rastafari.
Lion Voice. Well, don't be afraid, for I am with the eye. I will bring thy children from the east and gather thee from the west. I shall say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from afar, my daughters from the end of the earth.
While you waiting, down in the west it seems your life frustrating. Down in the west it seems the haters keep hating. Africa awake, creators start creating. Then when we party waiting, me and me woman love making. Leave Babylon and them hating. One love Africa and Jamaican. Then we'll be party waiting. Whole family them celebrating. Leave Babylon and them hating. One love Africa and the Haitian. The story written in my DNA. Them up my four parents never get no pay. But down in a them system I could never stay. For 100 years been planning a getaway. Them put us down in a the ghetto, now things get away. And the way the system set up seems it's set away. Now the ghetto youths them praying for a better day. I know the bugger them vex the day we step away. Until then, we will be party waiting. Me and me woman love making. Leave Babylon and them hatings. Black Americans will be participating. Then we will be party waiting. Whole family them celebrating. With Leave Babylon and them faking. In a Brazil, them and mama communicating. The story written in my DNA. That's why me couldn't work for no CIA. That's why me couldn't work for no DEA. How many innocent lives did they put away? Put us under the jail, through the book of wages. So many African males, please don't look away. I remember the land that they took away. Now Babylon them off to pay for their cookie pays. Until then, we will be repatriating. Me and me woman love making. Leave Babylon and them hating. In the UK them say them tired of the waiting. Then we will be repatriating. Whole family them celebrating. Leave Babylon and them hating. All over earth the African